Good morning, dear students. Now we are with David, chapter 8. The title of this chapter is My Future Looks Bright. David's future will be more successful. The contents of this chapter: David's new life with Miss Betsy, David's life in Mr. Weakfield's house. Mr. Weakfield is a new character in this chapter. We are going to meet three new characters: Mr. Weakfield, Agnes, and Uriah Heep. Uriah Heep and David's visit to his house. The last point, Dr. Strong School. David's new life with Miss Betsy. Now, Miss Betsy turned to be a kind person with David, okay? And she loved him very much. She decided to send him to a good school. So she asked her lawyer, Mr. Weakfield, to find her a good school for David. Then she took David and went to Canterbury, where Mr. Weakfield lived. He found him a good school near his house. This school is called Dr. Strong School. So now you must compare between Salem House and Dr. Strong School. Dr. Strong School was very clean. All the boys were very polite and the teachers respected the boys, okay? So it was totally different than Salem House, okay? And David lived with Mr. Weakfield in his house because the house was very big with plenty of rooms. Mr. Weakfield had a daughter the same age like David. Her name was Agnes. So both of them became friends, close friends, and they spent great time with each other. Agnes didn't go to school because her mother died when she was young, and she decided to learn at home to take care of her father and the house. So she was the housekeeper who helped her father in doing everything, okay? Miss Betsy informs David that she has written to Mr. Murdstone and that they will see what would happen next. Before doing everything, Miss Betsy wanted to deal with David legally. So she sent to Mr. Murdstone to give her the authority or the papers which helped her in controlling David's life, okay? He accepted everything, but he told her that he wanted the house to be his house, not David's. She accepted, and now Mr. Murdstone disappeared. Now, David becomes deeply sad at this news. Which news? That he would see Mr. Murdstone once more. Miss Betsy became David's guardian. David's guardian means the one who took care of David, and she has the authority to deal with his life as his mother. Now, Miss Betsy decides to change David's name. She wants to call him Trotwood. Copperfield. Trotwood Copperfield. He also grows increasingly close to his aunt. He loves her very much, who starts to call him by the nickname Trot. So David, for her, was called Trot, okay? One day she asks David if he would like to go to school at Canterbury, another place which is near her home. Miss Betsy needs to meet with her lawyer, Mr. Weakfield, to arrange David's future. When Miss Betsy rings the doorbell at Mr. Weakfield's house, as I told you, she took David and they went to his house, Mr. Weakfield's house. they met a strange boy bigger than David, whose name was Uriah Heep. That boy used to help Mr. Weakfield in his work, and that boy wasn't a comfortable boy, okay? It is answered by a red-headed, this is Uriah Heep, red-headed boy of about 15, bigger than David, who looks much older than his age. His name is Uriah Heep. Mr. Weakfield told Miss Betsy that he found a good school for David, and he also told her that he could live with them as the house was very big and he was living with his daughter Agnes only. Miss Betsy accepted the idea to leave David with Mr. Weakfield under one condition, that she would pay him the accommodation, okay? She would pay for his food and anything he needs. Mr. Weakfield accepted that. David enjoyed his life with Mr. Weakfield and Agnes, who was in his age, as I told you. The third point in this chapter, Uriah Heep. Uriah Heep. He is Mr. Weakfield's assistant and clerk. He used to say that he and his mother were humble. We are humble, we are humble. All the time he is humble, okay? He told David that he went to work with Mr. Weakfield just after his father's death, okay? Mr. Weakfield took Uriah to work with him after his father's death. He used to read in Mr. Weakfield's book to improve his legal knowledge. Legal knowledge, he wanted to be a lawyer, okay? So he used to take Mr. Weakfield's books and read everything to know information without telling Mr. Weakfield. He used to do that at night when Mr. Weakfield wasn't there, like this, okay? Uriah invited David to tea, and David accepted the invitation. When he went to Uriah's house, he was welcomed by his mother. His mother used to say the same word like Uriah, humble, humble. Okay? David met Mr. Micawber by coincidence. He was having tea. Then suddenly he saw someone passing by. That man was Mr. Micawber. Quickly he went to greet him, and he was very happy to see the man once more. So David met Mr. Micawber, who invited him to dinner, and David accepted. David spent a great time with them, and he was surprised at the relation between Uriah and the Micawbers. Mr. Micawber was Uriah's neighbor, okay? And both of them had great relation together. Now, as I told you, we will compare Dr. Strong's school to Salem House School. David went to a new school in Canterbury. Dr. Strong was an elderly man with a kind face. Dr. Strong took David into a classroom where 25 students were studying quietly. The school was clean, order, and discipline. Discipline was everywhere. The students were very polite, and they respected their teachers, and the teachers respected them. Dr. Strong and the teachers expected the boys to be polite at all times, and they were. David was well educated, and he enjoyed his time. When he went to that school, he found the head of the boys, or the leader, who was Adam. His name was Adam. You're going to compare Adam with Steerforth. Both of them were leaders to the other boys, but Steerforth was a bad leader, okay, and Adam was a good one. Thank you. This is the end of chapter 8. I want you to read it very well before answering the question.